Gotta kick off the show here.
We're agreeing.
So cleaned up.
Welcome back to the Mafia Cast. Thank you for joining us once again. We are, of course, part of the Buffalo Rumblings Podcast Network. I'm here today we have three people here. We got my buddies, John, Mike, Casey. I got the names right. I didn't mix up anybody. John, welcome back. How you doing?
Real good, real good. Thanks for having me back. I appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime. We love having you here. Casey, Mike, what's going on, fellas?
Yeah, just glad to be here. We're here. We did it. Friday, man. What a way to kick it off.
Made it.
Little Mafia cast on a Friday night.
There you go. And good evening, Richard. Thank you for coming on and listening. What'd you say, Casey? You're in and out again.
I'm sorry. I can tell my internet is wigging out. I said this has been a struggle of a week. Yep, here we go.
Here we go. Yeah, so first of all, let's kind of jump in with there goes Casey. He is out of here. Anyway, so it's the three of us now. It's okay. We'll handle it until he gets back.
That's what.
So, John, kind of fill us in. What's going on with you at your stores? Where they're located and things like that.
Well, the stores are located, one in Rochester, one in Hamburg, New York. The Rochester one's at 2670 Dewey Avenue in Greece. And the Hamburg one is right at the corner of Main and Buffalo, right in the village, inside of Staub Square. And so Hamburg, last week, we had Terrell Bernard here signing autographs. And now we're on to the next one and getting ready for the next player to get in here.
Excellent. Very cool.
That is awesome. So every time you bring in a player that same week, do they typically go off like Bernard did? Is that a common theme?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to say it's all because of me, and
Yeah.
so. But no, I mean, it was what a fluke. He's a great player. I've believed in him since day one. But he had a game.
Yeah, that was a huge, massive game. It's fun to watch. The Raiders game a couple weeks ago, I was there at that game, and I wanted to come out to one of your stores. And the plan was to make it out there, but then Mike and Casey canceled their plans because of whatever reason. So this is their fault I didn't make it.
I'm blaming Casey.
But one of these days I'll get over there.
Absolutely. Well, all you guys got an open invitation, and I'm sorry I couldn't meet you guys out. What was it, 2 weeks ago?
Right.
Yeah, 2 weekends ago.
Yeah. So, but one of these times.
We will. We'll
one
meet
of these
up
days.
soon.
Yeah, we'll make it happen, definitely. So let's just jump into this. Casey's still trying to figure out his technical stuff, but we're going to jump into, first of all, last week's recap. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on the game because by this point, with us coming on Friday, that's a horse that's been beaten to death multiple times. But I still do kind of want to hear from you guys what your initial thoughts on the game was, maybe what stood out to you, or maybe even what surprised you. And we'll start with Mike on this one.
Well, it was sort of, we played, I don't know, like the first game, like we're adjusting well, I guess is what I'm trying to say. They kind of, I don't know if they let Josh loose or what. I was kind of saying that week one, and he's throwing up them bombs and whatever was happening. But then we came back and we played conservative, a little more, and it worked out well. And then we kind of, we were conservative, but we're kind of stepping out of that comfort zone a little bit. So kind of easing out of it. And I mean, other than that, I mean, the defense coming up huge and definitely key in the big win this past weekend.
Yeah, it was defensively more than anything. But John, what do you think? What got you going on that game?
I agree. I mean, the defense is just clicking on all cylinders. And, everybody made real big plays. Bernard's performance aside, the defense as a whole just got after it. And, usually you don't see this type of form this early in the season, but they're meshing together so well. And, it's great that they were all healthy. I hope Poyer's back next week. But I don't think we'll miss a beat this week on defense and the running game. They've managed to establish that this year, and it opens up the passing game more. So it's good to see that it looks like we've got everything in place finally.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Really quick, we got to put this one back up. Roy says Casey's on his rotary phone calling AOL now. For those of you that don't know, AOL rotary phone. A rotary phone is it's a thing you pick it up to call, and you got to turn this little dial. That's for the younger generation that's not aware.
Yeah,
AOL
my grandparents' whole farmhouse had one hanging on the wall there. Many years.
Okay, we're on this topic of rotary phones. I have to tell this story. So, you guys, I think if you're on the show, you kind of know I work out at a dam just outside of town. There's actually a payphone located out there, right? And it's the only place I've ever seen a payphone in years. But I was driving through there, and there was a couple ladies at the payphone. So I was like, "Oh, what's going on?" So I pulled up there. I'm like, "Are you guys okay?" "Oh yeah, we're just calling my mom and giving her crap because we've never seen a payphone before." It was kind of funny, but sorry, I had to tell that story. But moving forward, Sterling, Roy, thanks for joining in. Appreciate you guys being in here. My takeaway from that game was, once again, Allen just kind of taking what was given to him. Aside from the one interception, which I was fine with that in that situation. If nobody else, let me rephrase it. I haven't looked at the all-22. So if there's no other options, why not just take a shot downfield, maybe get a pass interference, maybe he makes a great play, makes the catch, whatever. So it's like a punt. And I know some people don't like to hear that, but if you don't have another option, why not try it?
We were in a comfortable spot, right?
Yeah. So, but Von Miller could be back next week. And the way these guys are playing, and then you plug him into the mix, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be awesome, and I hope that we see more of the same this weekend. But we will get into that here in just a little bit. But Casey is still not back on. He's trying, so maybe we'll get his recap on the game here in a little while.
He's slacking.
But he's shaking his head down there. No, and it's a G show, Casey. All right. So we're going to kind of start going into this game a little bit. And before we do that, though, I was running some numbers, and I was a little bit surprised. So I know it's a 17-game season. So 1,000 yards for running back, not really that big a deal anymore. But James Cook is on pace for just over 1,500 yards, 1,513 yards. And unless you guys saw my Twitter post, you might know the answer to this question. But when was the last time the Bills had a running back rush for over 1,500 yards?
I saw
anybody
this.
that knows can answer.
I can't remember, but it was long
ago. Is there anybody listening right now in the comments that can tell me? I'd be shocked if anybody knows this. I'm going to take that as a no. 1976, the year I was born, was the last time a Bills running back ran for over 1,500 yards. Of course, that was O.J. Simpson. I believe it was 1,500 and I think 3 or 6, something like that. But and again, I know we're talking a 17-game season, but still 1,500 yards in a year. If he reaches that, that will be incredibly impressive. He's already leading. He's not leading the league in rushing yards, but he's right up there, I believe, in the top 5. Let me ask you guys, and we'll start with Casey. Can you hear us? Are you good? And that's a no. So I'll start with John on this. Do you think that James Cook can keep that pace and hit 1,500 yards this year?
I don't think he's going to hit 15. I think he'll definitely break 1,000. But I have a feeling that other teams are going to catch on to him a little bit and try to shut him down, which I'm okay with because we got Allen in his arm and, a few weapons there. And, at that point, maybe we'll see more use of Kincaid or somebody like that. And, but 1,500, that's a tough cookie to break, but I think he's in for a solid 1,000.
Yeah.
So when was the last time it was 1,000? Do you know that offhand? I mean, like you said, it's
Uh,
maybe.
a lot more
It
common
was.
now,
I was going to say McCoy. I think
right?
was the
Okay.
last one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Since then, I think the highest we've had is 800 something from Singletary. Which, like I said, 17 game season to get. I'm going to say only. I mean, I probably couldn't do it. I'm sure, but 800 yards in the NFL in 17 games, that's only what, like 50, 55, 60, somewhere around there yards per game. Like, well, even less than that, because I think 1,000 yards in a 16 game season, 1,000 yards would have been 62 yards per game. So we're talking 800 yards in a 17 game, like 40, 50 yards. But that's okay because, like John said, we've got Josh Allen, we've got the arm. This is not a running team, and that's fine as long as when we do run, it's effective, which so far it has been. And Cook has been breaking off a couple of nice runs these last couple of weeks as well. But John Robert, I think somebody put it up just right now, a little bit ago, but Cook is currently third in the league in rushing. Probably before last night's game because Montgomery had a nice little game in last night's game. If anybody was watching that, I think 121 yards. Did not have him in any of my fantasy football matchups either, but that's okay. Uh, with the Bills going into this game with Poyer out, I think everybody's probably heard that by now. Jordan Poyer's not going to play Sunday. I actually put up a poll on Twitter to see what people think who should start. Not necessarily who they think will, but who should start in his place. And I included Cam Lewis, Taylor Rapp, and then Damar Hamlin. And I was a little surprised that I think it was close to 20% said Hamlin. What do you guys think about? Well, let me back up. So we were talking about this earlier today, right, with me, Mike, and Casey. And Casey has a phobia of Cam Lewis being in the game. And it's funny because when he mentioned that, I told him, I said, I feel like a lot of fans only remember that Justin Jefferson catch. And when I put that poll up, sure enough, there was a handful of people that mentioned that. What do you guys think, though? John, we'll start with you. As far as will it be okay with Taylor Rapp? Are you expecting Taylor Rapp to be in the game? Do you think it should be somebody else? What are your thoughts on it?
I think it probably should be Rapp. I'm not a huge fan of some of his antics and the way he plays a little bit, but I think he's probably the smarter choice over like Hamlin. Hamlin, I think everybody's just thinking with their hearts. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to see him out on the field and making some plays and getting back into the groove. But I'd say you got to go with Rapp, and if he struggles, then bring in Hamlin.
Casey or Mike, sorry.
Yeah. So I'd agree. Rapp probably definitely at the top, and then so it makes me wonder, who's next underneath that's gonna fill in for Rapp's role, and who that's gonna be, and if Cam Lewis could do that. Who are we? Was there one other we were talking earlier? Or no, that was it. Cam Lewis, Hamlin, or Rapp.
Right.
Right. So it's Hamlin and Hamlin and I just said it. They haven't been active this year yet. Is that correct? Cam Lewis? Or no, he is on special teams.
Lewis has been, yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, this will be the first time that Hamlin that we know of. I haven't seen anything official that Hamlin's going to be active, but I assume he will be.
Right. So we're going to have that spot now. We would probably move Hamlin in.
Cincinnati had one of the Bengals fan pages had posted that Hamlin is going to be active for the game, but that's Cincinnati, so
that makes sense.
Right.
But still doesn't mean that he's coming in and filling that role immediately for Poyer. Right. Well, so I think we all agree.
And I saw, and I would think that probably Rapp will be the first one in, but there was a tweet that I thought was kind of interesting though, and depending on who comes in will be dependent potentially on the situation and the circumstances. Because Rapp is more he's more like Hamlin as far as down in the box type of safety.
Yeah.
Great run support, maybe a little questionable in the coverage, whereas I think Lewis is the better coverage guy of the three. So I could see that. I could see where they're like, okay, it's 1st and 10. Maybe that they have Rapp or Hamlin in the game. But there was also another tweet from, I believe his Twitter handle is Pierre Kingpin. If you follow Bill's Mafia on Twitter, you know who that is. But he commented, he went back and watched all three of the Dolphins games, and he was actually surprised that the Dolphins are not a pass first team. They are running. They are running really, really well, and they're getting the pass off of that run game. And I kind of saw that in the preseason because all three of their games in the preseason, the Dolphins are running all over people. And you kind of chalk that up to, well, it's preseason, but they're doing it again this year. So for that reason, I would not be surprised to see Hamlin in the game over maybe Lewis. I do think, like I said, I think Rapp ultimately gets the start, but maybe they swap them. Maybe they do a little platoon. What do you guys think?
Right. I think so, because there's the situations, well, like we're saying Rapp's going to replace Poyer, but there's some times when Poyer and Hyde are both in the game and Rapp is too. So you definitely got to see some different looks, certain situational schemes, and mix it up, get other guys in there.
Yeah. So there's some comments here. First, I'll go back one. Like I said, Lewis gave up the catch to Jefferson.
I think
Bills
Jefferson
fans-
make that catch on anyone.
Well, the issue was not that he made the catch on him, but the fact that Lewis had his hands on the ball and was trying to intercept it when all he needed to do was just punch the ball out of there, and that game would have been over.
Yeah.
But
I'm just saying the talent
again,
of Jefferson, you can't let that
Yeah.
overshadow, someone's
Yeah.
whole capabilities over one play.
Well, one thing I've learned about Bills fans is they do hold a grudge.
Yeah.
They do not easily let things go. But and then Scott here, Finns are really good. Going to be a rough game. Yeah, we keep hearing that a lot. Moving on.
Hey, the
Maybe
Raiders
Dylan
were
will be
talking a lot of
active.
crap too when they came into town.
Yeah,
So we just
And
stayed
we'll
humble
see.
and we'll
I
see.
believe that's supposed to be Benford at safety before we see Lewis there. I don't agree with that. I think Benford is the starting CB2, period. I don't think they move him around anywhere else. I see him being the guy for the foreseeable future. And I even saw some people commenting, "Well, move Kaiir to safety and let him fill in for Poyer," which is just crazy to me. Like, the week of a game, you're going to go play a position you've never played before, and maybe he has when he was in Pop Warner. I don't know, but um,
He has the athleticism, but maybe not the skill set to just step in and do that.
yeah, and that's the other thing. Let's talk about Elam for a second, because that's something else that keeps popping up with this game is he should be starting over Benford because he has the more athletic profile that fits the athleticism of the Dolphins. How many times, though, have we seen in years past, an Olympic sprinter come into the NFL thinking that they can play receiver and they can't? Like, yeah, it's great if you got all the speed and everything, but he couldn't beat out Benford and he couldn't beat out Dane Jackson. I don't want him on the field right now. I don't care about the matchups. I think Benford will be fine. Are the Dolphins going to make some plays on our secondary? Probably. But, John, what do you think about Elam? Do you think he should come in? Should they platoon the position or just roll with Benford and hope for the best?
I say go with Benford. I mean, unless, they've been, going back to the offseason, unless they've been preparing Elam, to go in case Poyer or Hyde goes down, like you said, you can't 4 days before the game say, hey, here you go. We're throwing you in at safety and, good luck.
Yeah.
Right.
I mentioned this earlier about, well, I'm not sure. It says O'Neal. I'm not sure who they're referring
Saran
to,
Neal.
honestly. Saran Neal. Okay. He can play this position also. He did play well in the preseason, as did Cam Lewis. I kept seeing a lot of reports about the two of them were having their best camp. But again, that's preseason. I want Rapp in there as far as that goes. And I'm sorry, I hate to say it, but I don't want Elam on the field. I just don't. There's a reason why he couldn't beat out those two for the position or even the backup role. So why would we put him on the field against arguably the best offense in football? It just doesn't make sense to me.
Not now.
Casey, are you in here? Can you hear us?
Am I here? Am I alive?
I hear you.
Yes.
Is there something else I can help with?
Oh, Siri. Siri's
Stupid
talking.
Siri,
Oh,
shut up.
Don't talk to me
I
like
didn't
that.
say that word. I don't know who said that word. Anyways, all right, Casey. let's jump back really quick since you're in here. Number one, because I know you have some thought on the safety position on who should fill in for Poyer.
So we were texting earlier, and my stance is it should be Rap. I mean, they brought him in here. I mean, they didn't pay him a bunch of money, but they brought him in here and kind of like this is like he was good enough. He's a Super Bowl champion. He was never the main reason, but he was a reason why. And I think that he is as good of a backup as you will ever find, in the NFL. Like he could be starting on multiple teams. We're just lucky to be Super Bowl contenders, and he wanted to try to win another ring. And I'm sure having Von Miller on this team helped, bring him along. Cam Lewis, this is where Ronnie and I differ, to where I believe he's only on the team for just because he has that ability to play. He's the primary nickel backup, and he can play safety. And I think that's what keeps him available, because it keeps that extra roster spot. Like somebody like Hamlin who only plays safety, they would have to carry Cam anyway to play nickel. So if they keep Hamlin out, they're like, okay, he's good. Cam is good enough at safety to where it covers, it's worth it to keep that roster spot. Then that's the only reason why I think he's there over Hamlin. I think Hamlin's a better actual safety, better at that position, one-on-one. But just the versatility for Cam is what keeps him active and on the team.
And right. I would actually agree with that. There's a lot of guys on this team whose versatility is why they're here. And I think what you and I were kind of talking about earlier was it's not an ideal situation by any stretch of the imagination. Is there a drop-off from Poyer to any of these guys? Absolutely. But it's just the fact of the depth and that the Bills have at the position. They have options, right? Now, I think people are most concerned of this week because it's the Dolphins. If we were going in against the Raiders again, or the Jets, or the Patriots, or even the Chiefs, I don't think people would be as concerned about it. But it's the Dolphins who just put up 70 points, which quite honestly, I'm tired of hearing about the 70 points. It's like, I get it. It's a Madden score, but it's also the Denver Broncos, who might be the worst team in football right now.
The
Broncos played. Yeah. Well, they play the Bears this weekend, so we're going to find out which of those two is the worst.
You got a good point.
Real quick about the 70 points. I sort of feel like, they ran up the score going into this week, trying to intimidate us because Absolutely. They're scared, honestly.
Absolutely.
And with the Poyer thing, I'd rather have him at the end of the year when we face them the second time than now. Is really when I'm not too concerned right now about it. And I think our guys can still get it done.
The only thing that I would say maybe against that, I love to rub mud all over the Dolphins any chance I get, but they did have a chance to set the NFL record, and they didn't. They chose not to. Yeah. So for that reason, I don't know if,
That's even overkill for what they did. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's where you are blatantly rubbing it in their face. I mean, 70 is doing it, but you can't help. Football is one of those games to where if you don't play it 100%, Mike, my grandpa taught us this. If you don't play it 100%, that's how you get hurt. That's when you get hurt. Because if you're going 80% and someone's coming at you 100, you're going to get hit a lot harder, and your body's not going to react as well to it. So, even when they put the backups in, White threw a freaking, or Skylar Thompson threw a 65-yard touchdown pass to Robbie Anderson over Patrick Surtain, who was deemed
Robbie Chosen.
Oh, I'm sorry. He looks like an island boy. But he over Patrick Surtain, who was rated the number one corner in the league. You're telling me that team didn't give up, So it was one of those things to where that team rolled over, and the backups still have to play. They're still putting on game film for other teams to see, because what if this is the only chance they get for the Dolphins? But this chance they got provided them another chance for maybe the Broncos to start next week. Who knows?
Yeah. Talking about Skylar Thompson and that touchdown he threw, I think he was 2 for 2 for like 70 yards and a touchdown
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
game. That's exactly why. And Casey, I know you want to talk about this. That's exactly why I I don't want to say that the Dolphins' offense is overrated because obviously they can score. We understand that, but I don't know that it's all about Tua. It's not all about it's that speed. That speed makes all the difference in the world in this offense. And the fact that and the scheme and the fact that Skylar Thompson can go in there and basically duplicate what Tua was doing, that tells me that it's a scheme situation. It's the players around that quarterback. Tua's a great guy on a personal level. I've seen a lot of his press conferences. He's a really good guy. I just don't see him as a quarterback that can carry a team if he had to. And so, Casey, I'll let you take it away from there because I know you've got some thoughts on that too.
Well, I mean, Tua. I was talking to a couple of buddies today, and everybody watches football. Usually you follow the football. That's where the football is going, where the play is going. But when Mike and I went and watched them last year in person, it made me gain so much more respect because I was not a Tua believer coming out of college. And I mean, the first couple of years, it really seemed like I was right. He was a limited quarterback. He couldn't push the ball down the field. Yes, he was accurate, but if his first read wasn't there, then he just held onto the ball, and that's when he was getting hurt. That's when he was getting sacked and hit. And he also had Brian Flores. To me, this team is all about Mike McDaniel. I mean, it's amazing, what an offensive mind can do. You see, okay, this quarterback can't do this, but he can definitely do this and do this very well. So what we're going to do is we're going to just build around those strengths. They built the team right for what they have at quarterback at their disposal. I mean, they got people who can separate and just run away from people. I mean, just their pure, like you said, their pure speed alone is enough to where Tua can hit them 15 yards down the field, but on that crossing route, the guy behind him is not going to catch him because of that pure speed. So to me, it's not about Tua, but he is playing well because he's being put in the right positions.
He's playing really well within the scheme is basically what it comes down to. Yeah.
Yeah. But could Josh Allen play in that exact same scheme? I don't think there's a chance. He's just not that type of quarterback. Josh plays in the exact scheme I think right now that he's supposed to play in, what Dable had him in, and then what Dorsey has him in now. But he's not the read and quick pass, West Coast offense quarterback that Tua is.
But when he was making those short passes, he did make it look good.
Tua?
Yeah.
No, Josh, a couple weeks ago.
Oh, Josh. Yeah, absolutely.
I was going to say, I have to disagree. If you give speed all over the place that they have and put it on the Bills, Allen's going to feast all day. That speed is what makes it the difference 100% on that offense. And I'm not taking any.
But I don't think it would be. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I would say I lost my train of thought now. But
sorry, I just don't think they would be used. They wouldn't be used the way that they're being used in Miami. I think it would be used more to push the ball directly down the field. And I mean, John, obviously, I mean, let's see who can run faster, the ball or Tyreek.
Right.
Let's see who can.
And I agree.
Are we saying those players with the speed on our team, or are you talking about Josh Allen in Miami?
In the scheme. Well, that's the whole thing. If Josh Allen in that scheme, right, I don't think is great. Josh playing with those players would be unstoppable.
Okay.
But in our scheme.
Well, yeah, and that's the difference, I think, because you're right. If that speed was on the Bills, their scheme, they would probably, push the ball down the field. And they would probably be putting up 50 a game because Josh has got to throw it 70 yards and then Hill or Waddle go get it. That's all it would be all day long. And it would probably be successful. I don't agree with the fact that if you plug Allen into that Dolphin scheme, that he wouldn't be successful. I think he would be just as successful. Because
yes. Okay, let me take that back. I think he would be as successful as Tua is, but I don't think he would. I don't think that this.
Casey, you're gonna get Spence on the show here to bet you on something.
Oh, here. On what is Josh gonna get traded to Miami?
No. You're scaring me though.
Yeah,
You're scaring me though because it's almost like we're not. I just want to tell everyone we're not saying Josh Allen isn't better than Tua.
No,
right,
we are
That's the
not
case for
saying
Tua
that.
let's take a step back. I want to hear from John on your thoughts on this little conversation that's going on.
How can I
And
follow
what do you
this
think?
up?
Yeah, good one. That is.
Yeah, there are some quarterbacks I think that are scheme-based quarterbacks. Like they have to have a specific style, a specific game plan and scheme, and that's how I see Tua. Props and kudos to him for playing the way he is within that scheme. But somebody brought it up earlier, Roy, I believe, 80% of his passes go to the first read. That works for him because that first read has usually got a step already on their corner or linebacker, whoever it is, because to Casey, your point, McDaniels does do a good job of misdirection and disguising what guys are doing so they can create that quick separation. And then you add that to the speed, and it's very difficult to get them off that first read. Can they do it? Absolutely. I think pressure straight up the middle is the way to do it. So before we get into that, though, let's go ahead and talk about. I mean, we've been talking about this game anyways, which I knew I was going to get to this point because this is a big game, guys. This is a huge game. I know it's only week 4, and even if we don't win this game, I'm not concerned about the season going forward at all. But I don't want to hear Dolphins fans. I do not want to hear from them all week long. But John, first I want to start with you. Kind of what are your keys to this game? Like, what do the Bills have to do that's going to make this difference, and maybe not necessarily stop the Dolphins' offense, but at least slow them down, and for the Bills to come out with a win?
Just play like we've been playing the last couple of weeks. I think Miami's going to end up hurting themselves a little bit just by coming off that 70-point drubbing of Denver. It's hard to put up 70 points in the NFL and then a week later be back to, hey, we got to take care of business. You're still going to be on that high, and I can guarantee one thing, they're not going to put 70 up again, whether it was against us this week or New England or the Jets or Chicago or whoever. They're not going to do it 2 weeks in a row. Could they put up 40? Definitely. But I just think that they're going to be – I think it might make them a little bit too cocky going into this week. And not to take away from McDaniel or anything. I mean, they know that they're facing a good Buffalo team. And, if we go through and play like we did the last couple of weeks and just stick to our game plan, I think we should be fine. And, it'll be a close game, but I see Buffalo beating them.
And we'll get to our score predictions here later for sure, because I do want to hear what everybody's thoughts on it are. And
I just wrote mine down.
Before I go, I'm going to go to Mike next, but before I do, I saw a stat earlier today that when a team scores, and I can't remember the exact number, but a significant number, they're 1-6 the following week. So to your point, John, yeah, it's hard to follow it up. The other part of that you just mentioned, somebody actually in here mentioned it in the comments, and it's already been buried. Oh, here it is. The Patriots slow down the Dolphins. That's a good point because the Chargers, whose defense is terrible, I think they're next to last in the league in total yards. They gave up a lot of points to the Dolphins, but I think it was like 35. It wasn't 70. The Patriots held them, I think, to 24. So to go in here and then almost from all the comments all week long from other fans, from the media, all I keep hearing about is can the Dolphins offense is this, it's that. Can the Bills defense stop them? But before I go too far down that rabbit hole, Mike, what are your thoughts on this?
I forget now. No. So obviously, the Dolphins are going to stretch the defense, with the speed. So we're going to need to stay consistent. Do what we've been doing. John's guy there, Bernard, he's going to, if he strings together another one of these sweet games, we're sitting really pretty, I think. So like the middle of the defense, I think is focused. Don't lose the top, but watch out over the middle. Don't let them, try to limit yards after catch, if you can. And other than that, the offense just stay consistent and kind of do what they're doing, conservatively, not that, chucking it up there, chucking up prayers or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even with that, Allen has had his way with the Dolphins for a long time, pretty
True.
much since he came into the league.
9-1.
You look at you look at the Miami's defense that nobody's talking about, and there's a reason why nobody's talking about that defense. They're not that good. They gave up, 20 points to the Broncos. That to me is a lot because Broncos are terrible. They are so bad. But they gave up 34, I think, to the Chargers, and then I think they did pretty good against the Patriots, holding them like maybe 17. But again, Patriots offense might be one of the worst in the league as well. They haven't really played anybody. The Dolphins haven't, and most teams in their defense, most teams at this point haven't. It's only 3 games into the season, but I think the combined record for Dolphins opponents was like 2-7 or something like that. The Patriots haven't won a game yet. The Chargers have 1 win, and then, well, I don't think Denver's won a game yet either, have they? So, and so I'll leave it at that. But Casey, what are your thoughts on the game going forward? Is there any concerns that are you nervous about this game? And somebody in the comments asked that question. So what do you think?
Oh, I mean, every single person in Bills Mafia is lying if they say they're not nervous about this game. Whether it's because we've all talked too much on the tweeter machine, or if we're not doing the ones talking, but we're tired of hearing Miami talk and they haven't even won anything yet. Like, no matter what the reason is, we have to win this freaking game. And the way I think we do it is we got to take away the middle of the field and we got to tackle. I can't remember who. I think it was Pierre Kingpin on Twitter put it out today that Miami is a run-centric team. They're based off the run. And, I mean, you saw that a lot last week. They tried to run the ball to, stop scoring last week. And A-Chain and Mostert could not go in the end zone. Like that, it was one of the most amazing offensive performances you'll ever see, running and passing. But if we can tackle and shut down the run and truly make them one-dimensional and put this onto his shoulders while taking away the middle of the field and make them stretch the ball vertically instead of horizontally, that bodes well for us. If we can keep them, at 30 or under, 32 or under, we win this football game because we can put up 35 points against this defense. It's not that good of a defense. It truly isn't. I mean, they've won. I mean, they beat the Chargers on a turnover. They got turnovers. They won the turnover battle, which is why they won that football game. They won the turnover battle against New England, which is why they won that football game. They don't do that. They only have 1 win, and that is why. And that's the 70 point. That's the 70-point game. Other than that, their defense is still suspect at this point. So I think we just got to take away the middle, take away the run, and let everything else fall to us.
Yeah. I want to shout out here to Jeff King. Thank you. We appreciate that. His comment, people are wondering why we're favored in this game because we ain't no Jesus show, so I won't repeat that. Broncos, go Bills. Go Bills. But he's right. And somebody else put up in the comments earlier that the bottom 3 defenses in the league, Bears, Chargers, and Broncos, and the Dolphins have faced 2 of them. We saw this last year too, actually, with the Dolphins. It was like, oh my gosh, the Dolphins are on a tear. They're destroying everybody. Then they ran into teams that actually can play football, and they went downhill from there. And I'd be curious to see the numbers on how many points the Dolphins have scored against the Bills defense since McDaniels arrived, because Buffalo, they've done a pretty good job against the Dolphins offense in the past. The one thing that does worry me a little bit with this game is I think the Dolphins are running the ball a bit better now than they were in the past. But I think our defense is going to be up for the challenge, and I want to hear what you guys think about what I'm about to say. But all this talk all week long about how great the Dolphins offense is, do you think that the Bills defense is listening to that and be like, okay, that's cool, y'all keep talking?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They're like I am. Ever since that Raiders game when we heard the Raiders fans talking crap and we were all just like, yeah, okay. And then there was a point in that game where I was worried. I mean, early on we're going weeks ago, but I like staying humble and hearing the trash talk, and I like to think it does motivate us.
Yeah,
And I
definitely
think Miami fans forget that, what was it, back in 21? We beat them by 30. We put 56 up on them.
with our
I think
backups.
Yep.
backups in the second half. Yeah, I remember that game.
Yep.
Okay,
I keep kicking
so
the corner into my desk and moving my camera.
Ronnie, you wanted to know how many points that they've put up in the McDaniel era against us.
Yeah.
So every game, I got to say, it's gone up 21, 29, 31. So,
Okay. I knew there was at least one 30-point in there.
It's tapering
and
We
the
lost one
only,
of those.
but the only game they won was when they scored the least 21 points.
And that was the
So
game
interesting.
played
that
on the
was
sun.
yes, that was a game played in the middle of the earth, exactly. So that means, I mean, it's kind of coming full circle to what we all learned in the Super Bowl. It's not really defense wins championships anymore. It's the high scoring like offenses that can, I mean, mixed with, yes, a good defense, but I mean, 31 points, 32 points, and you're still winning a football game. I mean, that Super Bowl was a mid to high scoring football game last year. It's these offenses are going to win it that have the halfway decent defense, and our defense is way better than Miami, and that's what gives us the big advantage here.
It's by far
I mean,
the
we
better
can go.
defense.
Yeah,
I don't
toe to toe with the
I don't know
best
what
of
the
them.
Dolphins. Yeah, I don't know what the Dolphins defense is ranked, but I know Buffalo's is number 2 currently, behind I think the Jets. Somebody correct me on that if I'm wrong, but yeah, teams have scored on the Dolphins, and yeah, I know that they can put up a lot of points. And you're right, Casey. I think this league has changed where it's no longer defense wins championships, but when you have two, I don't want to say equal offenses because I do think that as far as the scheme and the coaching and everything, the Dolphins do have the better offense, especially at this point in time. But when they are kind of close, the defense does matter at that point. And I do think that the Bills defense is going to make some plays that I don't see the Dolphins defense doing. And I think that's a difference in this game. But again, we'll get into the score predictions here in a little bit. And I want to get into some of the comments here. Roy, first of all, I hope somebody other than Diggs contributes more in the receiving game this week. Well, let's talk about that.
We might have to.
Real
Yeah,
quick to go back to your Dolphins defense, they're 18th, and we are currently
18th.
third.
Okay, third. Who's in front of us?
San Fran and Cleveland, actually, who has given up, I think, a total of like 26 points in the first 3 games.
Okay.
Wow.
All right, fine. Third, whatever. So, as far as the Roy's comment here, other than Diggs contributes more in the passing game this week, I don't necessarily think that's really an issue because we have Diggs and then Kincaid has contributed, Knox has contributed, Davis has contributed, like all of these, and Cook too. All of these guys in their own way throughout the game is contributing. I don't necessarily need to have a guy go over 100 yards receiving that's not named Diggs. But if you've got 4 guys that combine for 150 to 200 yards, that's great. I'll take that any day. What do you guys think? Somebody else mentioned here Kincaid going off for this game. T. Dobbs here says Kincaid's going off for 2 touchdowns. Book it. What do you guys think about that?
I'm not using that as my free parlay in DraftKings this week. Sorry, T. Dobbs. I do think that Kincaid could have a good game this week, though. And just due to the fact, I mean, they have Javon Holland, and I got to be honest, I don't know their other safety's name.
It's because they're
but
not that
they
good.
always, well, I mean, Javon Holland's pretty good. I got to give him credit.
Well, I'm talking about the names, people you can't name.
Yeah. But they've got Aziz, I think Aziz went down there from San Francisco, who's a great linebacker. I was big into the camp that the Bills should have went and got him this year. Glad we didn't. John, you were right. I'll give you credit where it's due. But I think Kincaid and Knox, it definitely could be like the 2 biggest mismatches in this game.
Yeah. You guys are making me think of, we were talking about the schemes earlier, Josh Allen in this scheme or that. But what this makes me think is how similar they are because, the different looks, the motions, the misdirections. So, the more of that we try to work in and maybe beat Miami at their own game, then we could see Kincaid really have a decent game. I don't know if I want to say a breakout game, but hit that next level. Putting up some stats, scoring, whatever.
Yeah, John, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'd love to see. I'd love to see Kincaid go off. I mean, I think what I hear today, the over under on Kincaid for yards is like 46 this week because he hasn't come close to it. And I think if he could get 70, 80, maybe 90, it'd be a great week for him. Could be a great week for us. Take the pressure off of Diggs and Cook a little bit, and just kind of confuse Miami and throw them off their game plan.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people this week on social media talking about Kincaid having a breakout game. I honestly don't know where that comes from, to be honest. Like, he hasn't really done anything for me that makes me think that's coming. And I'm not saying he's playing poorly, because he's not. He's getting targets. He's making plays. I don't think he has maybe one drop this season so far, if any. I know there was one in this last game, I think, but I don't know if it's credited as a drop or not. But Knox is still the number one tight end on this team, and unless that changes, I don't see Kincaid having that breakout game that some people are hoping for. And I also think some of that hope is coming from what Sam Laporta is doing over in Detroit. Like, the kid's having a phenomenal season. He's making a very legitimate run at Rookie of the Year. But you look at Detroit, he's their number one tight end. They have Amon St. Brown, and then who? So
That's it. That's it.
Yeah, he kind of steps into that number two option already. Now there's a potential of Jameson Williams, I think, comes back. They changed the gambling situation, so he's going to be reinstated after this week. His suspension got reduced to 4 games.
Really?
So we'll see. Yeah, so we'll see how that affects Sam Laporta going forward, or if at all. Maybe it won't. But so Kincaid, to me, I know he's great. People love him, and I can't wait for that breakout game. And I think long term he's going to be one of the best tight ends in football. But right now it's Diggs, it's Knox, it's Davis. We're starting to see a little bit more of Hardy sprinkled in there. We've seen some of Shakir sprinkled in there. There's just so many guys on this offense that are just kind of spreading the ball around. I just don't see an avenue where he can break out.
Well, and last game, you could tell they were trying to get the ball into Trent Sherfield's hands. Like, it was, like, he hadn't gotten a touch all year, and right away, it seemed every single time, the first 4 times he was on the field, Josh was looking his way. He was one of the first 2 reads, and it resulted in a catch. But there's so many mouths to feed. There's fantasy people are going to hate this, but the only fantasy relevant people are going to be like Josh Allen, James Cook, Stephon Diggs. Other than that, it's going to be the shot in the dark as to who's going to get the 30-yard touchdown pass. Yeah, a lucky Gabe catch. Yeah, the lucky Gabe catch. I'll get 11 points last week, but that's maybe all they're like. That might be all they do.
Yeah. I do want to address this comment here. Spin does bring kind of an interesting point. Brown is the reason why Kincaid will be able to outproduce Knox in games. Kincaid hasn't outproduced him yet. So I don't know that that's necessarily true, but I understand where he's coming from. Knox is the better blocker at this point in their careers. So if Brown is struggling, then yeah, I can see where Knox has to stay in and help protect Josh and help Spencer Brown, and that would potentially open up the door for Kincaid. But we're 3 games in the season. We haven't seen that yet. And we've seen Brown go up against Max Crosby. We saw Brown last week.
Chase Young.
Let's save it for later.
Yeah, Chase Young. So Brown has been playing well. Has he been, perfect, great? No, not by any stretch of the imagination. But I do think Brown is better than people give him credit for, especially right now. He is playing well. You guys have anything to add on to that? There's some more comments I want to get to, but I want to open up for you guys to.
Kincaid hasn't been used in the slot like we all expected him to. We expected him to be the main slot, the number 3 option on this offense, because he wasn't an inline tight end. He was not, we were told he was not an inline tight end. He was not going to block. He was not built for that. He's, the Mike Gesicki type. And what do we see him doing? We've seen him block and block well. He's been an inline tight end. has he lined up in the slot, but I don't think nearly as much as we expected him to. And whether it's he's still adjusting to the game,
He's still a
like
rookie.
one of our like I was gonna say, like one of our watchers said, he's a rookie. He's gonna learn. He's gonna get better. The game needs to slow down. Every pro always says, there's always one game where it all finally clicks and it slows down. They can finally see what's going on and see the whole field. So until he is a slot guy and deems himself the number 3 option on this team, and he's used like it, it's still going to be Knox, it's still going to be Davis, and it's still going to be Diggs. It's not like he's just still going to be another great complimentary piece. But the draft capital is what people are kind of getting worried about at this point.
And
I don't mind it.
Why Kaiir Elam is such a big name that people want to see on the field.
Yep.
Personally, I don't care where you're drafted. If you're not playing, you can't get it done, then don't play. Like, stay off the field. I don't care what your draft position is. But
exactly.
There was one comment here. Kincaid getting around 5 targets per game, pretty much splitting targets evenly with Knox, and that is accurate. I don't remember the last game, but I think the previous games almost exactly 50-50 split between them. But Casey, to your point, they have been playing a lot more of that 12 personnel that we've talked about. And this is a question for John. Do you think maybe going forward we'll start to see a little bit more of Kincaid in motion and moving around the formation? And we're just not seeing it yet for a couple of reasons. But if not, what are those reasons?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I kind of thought that he would, he'd be in a different position at this point. Sorry, I just got distracted. One of the other people walked by here, and I lost my train of thought now. What was the question again?
Happy Friday.
Yeah, I'm getting Casey syndrome.
Yeah. No, we're just.
Why are we not seeing more of the motioning from Kincaid and moving around the formation?
I don't know. I mean, like you guys touched on it earlier. I mean, there's so many weapons and so many people to get the ball to. I don't think we've been in a position that we've really needed to yet. Or I mean, maybe McDermott's keeping it up his sleeve. And just waiting for the right time to unleash it.
Yeah, I like that take. Like we're playing kind of conservative with him. You don't want to beat him up, in the first few weeks of his first year in the NFL. And yeah, like the Lions. I mean, Laporta's getting it done, but you can't put all that on Kincaid's shoulders here now.
And you don't have to.
Right.
You don't have to.
No.
That's
so I like to save it for when we need them, and just not beat them up, and kind of ease into things, and see how it works.
And I'm going to go back here to what Spin was saying, because he's trying to one up me here. Kincaid 11-12 receptions, 72 yards. Knox 7-12, 46 yards. Papa Ron, care to change your viewpoints on who's out producing who? Let's break that down per game though.
And who has more touchdowns?
Exactly. Yeah. So. And if you're talking about the difference between 72 and 46 yards over 3 games, to me, that's not really outproducing. Is it a little bit better? Is it more? Sure, but I don't think it's outproducing. We'll see. Maybe he does have a big game this weekend and goes off. I'd be all for it, but I'm kind of leaning more towards I don't think they want to play all their cards 3 weeks into the season, 4 weeks into the season. Yeah. I think that's something we're going to start to see as the season progresses, though. I think as Kincaid gets more acclimated to the game, to the speed of the game, that's when I think we'll start to see him utilize more as far as motions, maybe moving him out into the slot. But again, going back to Hardy, Sherfield, Shakir, there's a lot of guys that can play that slot position. So Spin is really he's trying. I know, fine, it's out producing, whatever. We love you, Spin. We do appreciate you always being here every single week. It's good to hear from you, man. We do need to move on. We have a
very good point.
We have a couple of other quick things. We want to do our power rankings this week. Since I failed on that last week and did not have a top 10, I'm going to start though before you guys steal any of my thunder. All right. So here's my top 10. I got San Francisco, Philadelphia. I think those 2 teams are the most complete teams right now, followed by the Dolphins. I don't like putting the Dolphins up there ahead of Buffalo, but they're undefeated, so it is what it is. Then I got Kansas City, and then I put Buffalo in there because Buffalo lost to the Jets, who have not won a game since then. They've been terrible, so that doesn't look good for us. Buffalo beat Washington,
It's
and
a
we beat the
fluke.
Raiders. As much as I love the Bills, just like what I'm saying with the Dolphins, they beat up on the Broncos. Buffalo hasn't really beat up on anybody of any note either. So I am not a completely biased Bills fan. My next group here is kind of tough, though, because these guys are interchangeable: Detroit, Dallas, Baltimore, Cleveland, and Pittsburgh, in that order.
Can I go next? Because that's pretty
Sure, go
close
for
to
it.
mine.
It's
So
pretty close to mine.
we have the same top five: San Fran, Philly, Miami, Kansas City, Buffalo. But then I have Cowboys, then Detroit, then Baltimore, Cleveland, and I have Indy
Okay.
because that 10 spot is a wild card right now. Anybody could be that 10 spot. But the fact that Indy somehow pulled out that win last week with Garrett Minshew, Anthony Richardson, he's
Gardner.
looked well, and I'm not being biased about Gardner Minshew. I'm not being biased about my bet, but I mean Anthony Richardson's looked pretty damn good.
Played well.
Uh,
He's played well.
So and the defense is coming back. They're about to get Jonathan Taylor back after this week, so that or probably unless he doesn't get traded. They're. I just think that they could be. I think they could be one of those just surprise darling teams this year. So
Yeah.
that's my 10.
I couldn't put Dallas up there where you put them. I really kind of wanted to drop them a little bit more, but they did look good the first weeks. But you lose to the Cardinals, who might, again, there might be one of the
I
bottom
know.
5 teams. And Detroit does have that win against the Chiefs, so that to me that carries some weight. Mike, what do you got?
So, very, very similar to you guys. Top 5: San Francisco, Philadelphia, Miami, Buffalo, Kansas City. So I did a little bias there. I did put Buffalo above Kansas City.
You can
You can
make
an argument.
that argument.
I
for
can
sure.
make an argument.
Absolutely.
Yes. But yeah, the lower 5, very similar as well. And I think Casey just sold me on the 10th spot because I had Green Bay still there. Haven't lost hope on them yet, but you just talked up Indy, so I think I'm going to throw them in there at 10. So 6 through 10, Dallas, Baltimore, Detroit, Pitt, and Indy. So interesting. We all got Pittsburgh in there this week.
I couldn't put a team
I
led by
don't.
Jordan Love in the top 10. I couldn't do it.
And I don't have Pittsburgh. I have Cleveland, not Pittsburgh.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
John, do you have a top 10 or you just want to comment on what we've got here?
No, I don't have a top 10. My dog ate my list.
It happens.
Yeah, but no, I agree, and I'm not a Jordan Love fan. I think Green Bay's got no business in the top 10. And I'm not entirely sold on Pittsburgh, so I'd probably move them down a little bit too. But other than that, I mean, I'd have to agree with all you guys.
Yeah, I just want to note that I'm looking at the NFL actual power rankings right now, and Green Bay is number 10.
Oh,
Cleveland's at 9th.
But that was before last night. I can almost guarantee it.
Yeah.
And then they have the Dolphins at number 1. So I just wanted to throw those out there.
Yeah. I've seen some. I can't remember which site it was I was looking at, but they were talking about the Dolphins finally cracking the top 5. And I've seen somewhere they have the Dolphins at 7, like PFF's. Their rankings are all over the place a lot of times. But there's been San Francisco, Buffalo, KC, Miami, Philly, Dallas, Detroit, Baltimore, Cleveland, and then Jacksonville. This last week 3, there were some upsets. There were some surprise losses in there that really, to me, kind of threw all of us out of whack. Like the top 5 was relatively easy for me. After that, I was like, I mean, any of these guys could be the 6th best, honestly,
like
in my rankings.
Jacksonville had the divisional loss, so that kind of bumped them down for me.
Oh, it wasn't just a divisional loss; it was a butt kicking too.
Well,
37,
right,
I think 17.
Yeah,
they ruined my parlay. If it wasn't for them, I'd have won $700.
All right,
Charles.
we're just about out of time, but I do want to give Casey his due here. He wants to talk about this, even though this is a football show about the Bills. He wants to talk about what?
Well, real quick, we got to do our score predictions, and then we'll talk about the biggest sporting
Okay.
event in the world.
But then we have a
It's
cool
not
little
Super Bowl
tidbit.
yet.
We do have a cool little tidbit that might be going on our page after in the next couple days as well.
Yes.
Maybe
All right.
giveaway or something. So
Well,
hit it.
let's roll with the score predictions. John, we'll let you go first on this one.
31-24 Buffalo.
All right. Any, meeny, miny, mo, go Casey.
I'm going to go 32-35 Buffalo.
I guess I'm
Mike?
next.
Yeah.
And mine is 31-23 Bills.
Okay. And so that leaves it up to me. I'm going to go 41-28 Bills.
Damn.
I think
Dang.
Buffalo's
Light them
going
up.
to lay it on them. Yeah,
Nice.
that defense is not very good with the Dolphins. I'm just if they prove me wrong this weekend, then I'll give them props for it's due. But I have not seen them play well, so I'm confident in 41. I mean, we put up 37, or was it 38, 37 on the Washington, who's got a pretty good defense, particularly that front four. So we'll see. Casey, go ahead and talk really quick about what we've got going on to look forward to on the.
Everybody wake up at 1:35 in the morning today on the East Coast. If you're on the West Coast, you're lucky. You're probably still awake from today. But it's USA versus Europe in the Ryder Cup, and we are getting absolutely smacked right now. We're down 5 points. So each match is worth 1 point. So we lost 6 out of 8 today. There's 14. All teams need is 14 and a half points to win the tournament. So we need a big comeback, and it's not looking good. But it's if you like football and you like golf, this is like the number one golf tournament to watch because it's not quiet. I mean, people are rowdy. I mean, players are chirping back and forth at each other, like legitimately talking trash. It's very entertaining. So
yes, Roy, that's golf, and Casey loves golf, and he called out Josh Allen about golf.
Yes, man, I do because I'm a real American and I support my fellow Americans.
All right, but back to football talk, right?
Yes, back to football talk.
So
go for it.
Yeah. So I don't know. In the next coming days on the show, our good friend John here might be hooking us up with something, maybe Bills player related, maybe Terrell Bernard, and there might be some sort of giveaway coming on the page in the upcoming days. So like, subscribe, share both our pages, John's pages. You're going to have to do all that. So if you want to get ahead of the game now, you go ahead.
John,
and
raise it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, maybe we could just have people figure it out by the hair.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay.
Very cool stuff.
That is awesome. So be looking forward to how you can get in on that and get yourself a Terrell Bernard. It is autographed, correct?
It is autographed. Yeah. It's an 11 by 14. It's got a COA from me saying it's authentic. And actually, if you go to the store's Instagram or Facebook page, you'll actually see pictures of him signing that exact picture.
Awesome.
That's fantastic. So we're going to get out of here. If you're watching, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share the show with all of your friends. We want to, bring all the Bills fans together, and even the Spins of the world who want to talk some crap to me. I'm here for it. So let's have a great time, and let's look forward to this weekend's huge divisional matchup with the Dolphins. And go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills. Thanks, T-Dobbs.